Welcome back, everyone. For today's video, we are going to be taking a look at the semifinals and potentially the grand finals of the Chessable Masters tournament being held on chess.com. Now, unlike past Chess Champions Tours, there is a lot on the line as the two CCT events this year will be qualifiers for the grand finale in the Esports World Cup being held in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. So, big matches, a lot of pressure. Obviously, I recently signed with the esports organization Team Falcons, so I'm looking to put together a good semifinals because based on my math, my understanding is if I finish in the top three, guaranteed with a victory in the semifinals, I will definitely make the finals regardless of how I do in the next Chess Champions Tour event. So, in the semifinals, I'm playing against none other than Alireza Firouzja, the very talented Iranian player now representing France. It's a classic best of four with a potential Armageddon. So in the first game, I'm playing with the white pieces and I play the move b3. Now you might be wondering, why am I playing b3? The reason is that I feel with this time control of 10+0, it's easier to go for the flow and move very quickly. So we get d5. Now I play the move bishop to b2 here, and Alireza plays knight f6. I go knight to f3, bishop f5, knight h4, bishop d7, and I play the move c4. Now all this was played yesterday. I played this in my match against, I believe, Grishchuk as well as Nepo. Maybe not against Grishchuk, but definitely against Nepo. But here Alireza plays move knight c6. Now, in my game against Nepo, I believe that he played the move pawn to e6 here, and the position is pretty normal. But Alireza clearly is prepared, and he plays knight c6. I go pawn takes pawn, knight takes, and now I play the move knight f3. Now, it's a little bit of a semi-bluff. This is important to note because I kind of made some similar decisions against Magnus in the final as well, where here I knew that the correct move was to play either knight to f3 back or to go for this very sharp line by trading the bishop for the knight and taking the pawn on d5. But instead, I kind of roll the dice a little bit. I trade and go knight f3. And here, Alireza plays the move bishop f5. Now, if Alireza had done a lot of preparation, probably he would have known that the correct move here, according to the computer, is the move pawn to e5, sacrificing a juicer in the center. If white were to play d3 here, after bishop to b4, knight bd2, and bishop g4, suddenly the bishops are very powerful on the diagonals, and the computer already gives black a very big advantage. But without knowing it's the best move in a 10+0 no increment, you can't spend forever thinking, and Alireza goes bishop f5. Here I play the move d3, and Alireza plays bishop g6. If he were to play a move like e6 here, this is a very severe mistake because after e4, I fork the knight and the bishop at the same time, and I win material. So Alireza drops the juicer back. Now I play knight d2, and here we get the move e5. Now I play the move g3, and already you can probably tell this looks like a reverse Sicilian defense as I've gotten rid of the c-pawn and I'm developing the bishops on the diagonals. Now at this point in the game, I was already feeling very, very confident. I really like the position. It feels easy to play, and I thought I had good chances to win. So Alireza goes f6. I play rook c1, a5, a3, bishop e7, and now I play the move bishop g2, intending to castle my king and finish my development. Alireza castles. I play the move knight to h4, and this is an important moment here. Now I could have tried to castle right away, but what I noticed after the move knight to h4 is that I'm attacking a bishop. Now if black plays just a normal move like queen d7, after I trade the knight for the bishop, here I have the two Bs versus the bishop and knight combo, and we've spoken a lot about this in my recent recaps covering the freestyle event or Fischer Random being held in Germany. I spoke about how I feel like in regular chess the bishop pair is at a premium, but in Fischer Random it's not as valuable. So when I go knight to h4, I want to trade the knight for the bishop. But when Alireza moves the bishop to f7 after knight to f5, now black has no way to avoid the trade of the knight for the bishop here, and at this point I am going to get the two Bs. So Alireza plays bishop d6, I go knight c4, rook to a6, and this is the first step in the wrong direction. Now I'm not really sure why Alireza played rook a6. I actually thought after the move knight d to e7, black was fine because if I take the bishop pair here by trading the knight, suddenly after castles on d5, there's a big black center in the middle of the board, and I think black is completely fine. So we get rook a6. Here I castle, and now Alireza plays move queen d7, and I trade the knight for the bishop, and I play the move d4. Now black has a nice chain of pawns here in the middle of the board, but with both the diagonals opening up for the bishops combined with the open d file, white should be better. So Alireza takes on d4, I take, and now he blunders the game away with this move b5. Now already here it's a very tough spot. You can tell that Alireza is down 2 minutes on the clock, no increment, bad position with the open diagonals, a lot of pressure in the middle of the board as well. So it's very understandable that he plays a quick move trying to relieve the pressure, but this move is a big mistake because now I can play the move knight to b6, forking the queen and the knight. If black takes with the rook here, I simply take the rook, and after takes, I win the knight, and here I have a rook in return for a knight, and I will win the game. So Alireza takes with the knight. Now I play rook takes knight, bishop guards the rook, and now there are all kinds of problems on the 6th rank for black. So Alireza plays rook b8, trying to hold on to the knight, and now I play the move queen d3, pressuring this pawn on b5. If the pawn on b5 falls, the knight or the rook almost certainly will collapse as well. So Alireza goes bishop e8, and now I play the move rook fc1, over protecting the rook on c6, as well as creating a double stack, and now we get the move d5. Now Alireza here of course could play other moves like queen to e7, but regardless I can sack the rook with queen takes pawn, and after takes, rook takes c6 here. The knight and the rook are under massive pressure, and white should be winning the game with the 2 b's. So Alireza goes d5, I take the juicer, he goes queen b7, and now I play the move rook takes knight, he takes back with the rook, and here I play the move queen takes pawn, checking the king and attacking the queen. Now at this point the game is effectively over from a technical standpoint, because here if you do the count, I am going to end up with 1 2 3 4 5 6 against 1 2 3 4 pawns for black. So Alireza trades the queens, goes bishop f7, I trade, I take, and here this is simply a winning rook and pawn endgame as I have 2 extra pawns on the board. So I go rook c7, king g6, rook c3, rook d6, and eventually we end up in this endgame where finally I give up the b3 pawn, I get the a5 pawn, and here I have 5 pawns versus 3 pawns on the king side, and the rest is very elementary. We get rook to a3, I play g4, king h6, h4, king g6, and now I play the move e3. We get king f7, h5, h6, and here I go rook a7, king g8, and I start pushing my pawn. Now basically at this point I know I'm going to win the game. There's one simple plan which I go for, and there's really nothing Alireza can do to stop it. He goes rook a4, f4, rook a3, king f3, king f8, and now I start pushing my p. We get king g8, check, push the p again to a7, and here Alireza resigns because if he ever tries to bring the king closer to the pawn, for example king e7, I can play rook to g8 here, threatening to queen the pawn, and if black takes the pawn, I take this one, winning the rook on the 7th rank. So basically he'll have to give up the rook for the pawn or give up the rook for the pawn on the final square of the board. So if you go king e6, same thing, rook e8 checks the king, and then I queen the pawn, and after takes, I have an extra tower. So you can't move the king to e7 or e6, but now when you move the rook, I actually have a way to force the king to move, which is to play e4. Let's say we get check, king here, check, king b1. Let's just say rook a6, and now I play the move e5. After takes, black basically has no way to stop me from sacrificing the pawn in order to free my rook to move across the board. If black plays king e7, same thing, rook g8, king e6, rook e8, same thing. And if black plays rook a4, I can sack the pawn. If black takes, I check and queen the pawn, and if black goes up, same thing, I check, queen the pawn, and after king to e7, I simply go rook g8 again, winning the game on the spot. So that is why in this position after a7, Alireza resigns, because I can simply move my king, create a passed pawn here, disrupt the king, and win the game. Now, it might be a little bit dang, so you can slow down the video, pause it, and go through it again, but the plan is simply unstoppable, which is why Alireza resigns. So that gives me a big 1-0 lead in the match. Now in game number 2, Alireza would play a brilliant maneuvering game and beat me in a Gucci piano. The last 2 games, games 3 and 4, would be fairly tense draws as well, which meant that we went to the dreaded, or perhaps enjoyable, Armageddon. So we go into the Armageddon and something very peculiar happened. The players make their bids for how much time they want in order to play with the coveted black pieces, where you have effectively draw odds, meaning if you don't lose the game, you win the match. Now I decided to bid a very random number. I bid 619. There was really no deep thought behind it. I just knew that Alireza had bid something around the 630 mark yesterday in his match against Fabiano Caruana. So I thought, let's bid a touch under, something like that. So I bid 619. Now, much to my shock, Alireza would actually bid the identical time with 6 minutes and 19 seconds, meaning we would have to do a second round of bidding to determine who would get the black pieces. Ultimately, the second bid, I would bid 6 minutes and 1 second. Alireza would bid 6 minutes and 7 seconds, meaning that I get the black pieces with draw odds. So Alireza must beat me with white, or I move on to the grand finals to play against Magnus Carlsen. So Armageddon game, I'm playing with the black pieces, and we get this classic Gucci piano. It's worth pointing out that the specific variation, Alireza and I have played this many times. We played this in the Candidates tournament in 2024. We played it in Norway chess as well, so both of us are very familiar with this position. So we get this position, which we've had many times here up to this moment after a5, and now we get b5, and here I play the move knight b to d7. Now our past encounters, I blunder in this position. I haven't played this move, which is the best computer line, but this would occur in both the second, the fourth game, as well as this Armageddon game. So all this was played by both of us. So we got this position right here after knight g1, where I go bishop g4, and now Alireza takes the pawn. Now in game number 2, the game that he would win, he played the move f3, and here I made a mistake by playing bishop d7, and after the move c4, Alireza got the advantage and would go on to win. Now in the fourth game, I believe that Alireza played the move f4 here, if I remember correctly, and after takes a4, bishop d1, the game turned into a big mess after the trade, d5, takes, and knight g4. Very chaotic game, but it ended peacefully. So in this Armageddon game, Alireza decides to trade on c6, and now he plays the move f4. Now it's worth pointing out that those of you guys who are watching this game at home, you'll notice the evaluation bar gives black an advantage, but there's a very philosophical debate going on here between Alireza and myself, which is that Alireza is trying to argue the objective evaluation doesn't matter here because the actual plans and the play for white are easier than they are for black. White just wants to attack on the king side, and black really has to use his time and figure out when to try and blast the center with d5. So I'm trying to argue that the actual quality of the position matters. Alireza is trying to argue the ease with which white can make the moves is more important. So here I trade on f4, and now I play the move d5. Now this is actually a mistake, but I was very happy when I did this because remember, I'm starting with a 4-minute deficit on the clock here, so I need to move quickly. One thing I've noticed in Armageddon games, especially online, is if you can get out of the open the first 20 moves in like the 30 seconds to a minute, generally you have a good chance, but if you get stuck in the mud and have to use time early, you're going to suffer on the clock. So I was very happy to get this position because now my moves should be a little bit easier. We get queen g2, and here I trade the pawns and go bishop e6. Now you'll notice that I'm moving really fast. I've only used 29 seconds up to this point. What I was trying to do here is just move fast, not get under pressure on the clock, because I figured my best chances are to try to play instantly. Now this move is a mistake here. Computer actually wants me to trade on a3 and play this move queen d7, and apparently black is okay, but frankly in a game where you don't have a lot of time to think, it's very weird to leave this bishop on g4. There's e5 here, there's f5, all the pieces look a little bit loose. So I play the move bishop e6. Alireza plays bishop c2, and now I play the move rook e8, just trying to move very quickly, go for the obvious plans, move the rook, pressure the pawn, and maybe go bishop f8 to guard the king side. Alireza plays f5, I go bishop c4, and now he plays the move knight f3. Now in this position, I play the move knight fd7, and this is a serious inaccuracy here, but again, I'm trying to move quickly and just keep the flow going. Computer wants king to h8. I was actually very worried about something like knight to e5 or a rook g1 type idea here. I thought that I'd be in a lot of trouble, and I also didn't want to spend a lot of time because I know that if I get low, my opponent is trying to attack me and bad things could happen. So I go knight fd7. Alireza plays bishop c1, and now I play the move king to h7. Already here, you'll notice the time gap has closed substantially, and one thing that I was trying to do here is really think on Alireza's time so that I would be able to play my move very quickly as a reply. So I go king h7. Now this is not a move that I wanted to play in the position. I initially wanted to go king to h8, but already here I thought that after the move rook to g1, bishop f6, and maybe bishop takes h6, I thought that I could be in trouble. Remember, these calculations I was doing during the game are split-second decisions. Actually, maybe queen h3 is what worried me. So I was trying to do these split-second calculations, and I was really worried about getting attacked, so I decided to go king h7. Now here Alireza plays the move e5, and this is a terrible blunder according to the computer. I actually, while Alireza was using the 20 seconds to play the move, I was thinking about what to do, and of course because I'm not a computer, I missed the line that puts black in a good position to save the game. So the move the computer wants here is a very obvious move, bishop to f6, sacrificing a bishop, because if white takes the bishop after takes, bishop d5 and bishop e4, now black can take the pawn on f6, and due to white's lack of development with all four of these pieces on the back rank, apparently black is completely fine here. Now in a classical game of chess, maybe I can find this. In a blitz game, it's borderline, it's impossible, especially with the clock ticking down and no increment. But it also highlights just how bad humans are at chess and how amazing computers are, that even a position like this, which looks really dire for black with ideas like f6, all the pressure on the g file here, that it is completely fine. So instead I go king to h8. Important move, by the way, because if I play, let's just say knight c8, after f6, the bishop's under attack. I'm getting mated on the g file here, and everything is collapsing. So I go king to h8. Now here Alireza plays rook g1, logical move, setting up the checkmate, and I play rook g8. Now Alireza goes knight d2, and this is probably the critical moment of the game. Now you'll notice here that I'm still moving very quickly. I have 4 minutes and 12 seconds left, but Alireza's time gap is down to 1 minute. And here I would argue at this point, white is already in the danger zone where you have to be super precise, or you are probably going to lose the game. And what I mean by that is at this point, I'm guarding my king side here. I want to put the bishop on d5 to target the diagonal, and white basically has to show me the money. White has to break through, crash through with the attack, or all my moves are going to be reactionary to whatever he does. And this is where Alireza plays move knight d2. Now, what I expected Alireza to play was the move f6, which is actually close to winning, because if I take with the pawn here after queen h3, rook g1, and king g1, white is simply attacking on the h file here with the 2 b's attacking this h pawn. It is just completely lost. But it is a hard move to find, so Alireza plays knight d2, and now I play bishop d5. Now at this point, I'm actually ahead on the clock, so now I'm feeling very good. I've got a nice wooden shield here in the middle of the board. Bishop targets the diagonal, and I think I'm okay. Now, again, Alireza was using a lot of time to come up with these moves, so I really was trying to think hard, and the move that I was most concerned with here was the move c4, because after takes, suddenly the bishop is no longer on the diagonal, and I thought that maybe Alireza could sack the bishop here. Apparently, after takes, queen h3, takes, queen f8, f6, bishop e6, it's still very murky, but honestly, it looks really hard to play for black. Instead, Alireza goes knight e4, and now I get to play the move knight c5, offering the trade of the knights, and with his bishop on the diagonal and no obvious breakthrough on the king side, the tide is starting to turn. Now here Alireza trades the knights. This is a mistake. He should probably play the move knight e to d2, but frankly it's a very passive move here. You close down the diagonal, sack the bishop, you let me have this unchallenged bishop in the middle of the board, and it's just not very human. So Alireza trades here, and now after bishop takes, suddenly both of my bishops are on great diagonals. White's attack is starting to fizzle out, and I'm also up on time on the clock. So Alireza goes rook e1, and now I play knight c4 here, trying to jump towards the center of the board with my horse. Alireza plays bishop f4, and now I go rook b8, trying to infiltrate with the kebab on the second ring. Now already here, everything has gone completely wrong. White is still kind of okay after bishop to e4, but already here Alireza is starting to panic because he has no attack, he's way down on the clock, and he must win the game. So here Alireza makes a very serious error. He plays move queen to h3. Now on first glance, this looks like a reasonable move. You're threatening to sack the bishop. For example, rook b7, takes is a checkmate of the king, and white wins the game. But one of the great things about my time usage in this game is that I have plenty of time here after queen to h3. I'm up 2 minutes on the clock, and I show some glimpses of old Hikaru here as I use about 20 seconds, and I find the crushing move queen to h4, offering a Botez gambit. I'm sacking my queen here. White cannot take with the horse because then that would put the king in check, and if white takes the free queen after bishop takes f3, it is checkmate. Bishop covers the g1 square, the other bishop covers the light squares, and the king gets checkmated. So I sack the queen for free, but I'm also attacking the knight and the bishop at the same time, and white just has no way to survive. Now Alireza plays king g2, and here I play the move queen takes f4. Worth pointing out that queen to f2 would lead to an instant checkmate here with the 2b's once again, but I was just trying to move quickly. I saw that there's a free juicer. I take it, and now I'm up a piece. All the pins are in play. The rook's coming to b2, and because of the time situation, there is no chance in a million years that I will lose the game. Therefore, Alireza resigns this game. That means that I win the Armageddon, and I move into the grand finals to play against the 5-time world chess champion Magnus Carlsen. So I'm playing Magnus, same format, best of 4, and we're going to jump right into the action with the first game. Magnus plays d4, I go d5, knight c3, knight f6, bishop f4, and now I play the move a6. Now perhaps Magnus was trying to pay ode to his great friend Hans Niemann by playing this Jobava Niemann London system, or perhaps he just thinks it's a good opening, but at any rate he plays bishop f4. So I go a6 here, stopping knight b5, and now we get the move e3. Now one thing I want to point out is that I obviously am a streamer first. I play a lot of blitz games online, and there are 2 people specifically who play this system against me a lot, and those 2 players are Grandmasters Daniel Naroditsky and Grandmaster Alexander Bortnik. Now one of the drawbacks playing a lot of blitz online is you play a lot of these openings just, memorization, you try to blitz out the moves, and sometimes you aren't actually ready with the best variation. So I play h6 here. Now this might look awkward. I push a couple of pawns, we get the move h4, and now I play the move e6. Magnus goes knight to f3, and here I play the move b6. This is already wrong, but again, as I mentioned, I probably had this position at least 20 times in blitz, whether it be Arena Kings, actually in bullet brawl as well against Bortnick, and I've always gotten good positions and beaten him. But the problem is this is a little bit slower time control. It's 10-0, and my opponent is not Alexander Bortnick. My opponent is Magnus Carlsen. So I play b6. Probably here I should have played either c5 or b5. b6 is a little bit slow because I've already pushed a lot of pawns here, so it's not really creating a big plan. Also, after b5, let's say knight e5 and c5, I'm pushing the pawns on the queen side at least, whereas when I go b6, the only thing I'm really doing is threatening to potentially, after c5, recapture with the pawn, whereas in this other position, after b5, knight e5, c5, the pawns are going forward in a hurry. So I play b6. Magnus goes knight e5. I play knight fd7. As I said, this is what I played against Bortnick 1,000 times. We get queen f3. I trade, and now I play the move knight d7. We got bishop f4. And here I play the move c5. Probably what I should have played was bishop b7, and if white goes queen g3, I can play this move rook to c8, and after castles, instead of playing c5 transposing into the game, maybe I b5 b4, something like this to at least try for something different. Instead, I play c5 very quickly. Magnus plays queen g3. I go bishop b7, and now after castles, it's already a very critical position, and here I play the move rook c8 after a very relatively short think. Now, I do think my nerves were definitely a little bit frayed already from the previous match, just having to move really quickly in the scrambles, and I don't use my time correctly. Now, the reason I probably should have used my time around this moment is because Magnus used 1 minute on his last move. Now, obviously, I've played Magnus many times over the years, and usually when he slows down, it's because he senses something in the position or he's looking for a specific idea, and I usually can pick up on those cues, but I just don't pick up on it, and I play this move rook c8, allowing e4. Now, what actually happened is I wasn't sure if e4 was a move, but I thought that I could simply take the pawn, and after rook d4, queen f6, I thought I was fine. But I simply overlooked the fact that after pawn takes pawn, white can go for the very common move pawn takes pawn, sacking the horse on c3, because if I take the horse, after takes, king b1, you'll notice the knight is pinned here, and if I take after queen g6, king e7, there's bishop d6, checkmating the king on e7. So I simply overlooked this move, and after pawn takes pawn, already here, it's very close to a position where I can resign. Here I play the move knight f6. Probably what I should have played was queen to f6, but even here, after knight e4, queen f5, and pawn takes pawn, say I take and f3. White is much better here. The bishop's coming to d3. There's a weak pawn on d4, and my king, bishop, and rook are underdeveloped. So I play knight f6. This is just a mistake here based on a poor miscalculation, but even without knight f6, I think already here I probably would lose the game. So we got pawn takes pawn. Now I play the move knight h5 here. If I were to take the pawn on e6 after bishop e5, I'm going to lose this pawn. There's a nice wooden shield in the middle of the board with a bishop, and there's even a queen g6 check looming as well, and it's all but hopeless. So I play knight h5. We get queen g4, takes, and now I play queen f6. Worth pointing out, I use a lot of time to reach this moment, but already here after rook takes d4, white has 2 extra pawns here, and the game is over. So I trade the queens. I go king e8. We got bishop d3, and now I play the move rook c7. Magnus plays rook e1, king d8, and here he plays the move bishop e4. Now this move is not necessarily the best move, but I really like it because all Magnus is focused on is trading off this bishop. If he can eliminate the 2 b's here, there is no chance that I will be able to survive. So I play bishop c8. Magnus goes bishop f5. I trade, and now I play the move bishop c5. Now, ordinarily, if this were a game being played with increment, already here I would probably resign, but I'm still going to play on because I'm hoping that maybe I can blitz some moves, and maybe there will be a mistake. So I go bishop c5. Magnus plays knight e4. I drop back. He goes g3, guarding the pawn on h4, and now I play king c8. We get rook e5, rook d8, rook d1. Of course, I go rook f8. I can't trade down material due to the pawn deficit. So I play rook f8. We get c3, g5, takes, rook d2, and now I go g4. If white were to take the pawn on g5, there would be a rook takes f2. So we get rook d2, g4, and now Magnus plays rook e6, king b7, rook g6, and here I go b5. Magnus takes another pawn. He's up 3 pawns here and well on his way to a victory. So I go b4, king c2, takes, rook f5. We got a4, and now I play the move rook a5, trying to attack the pawn on a4. Magnus goes king b3. I go king a7, trying to check the king. We get rook d4. I play rook b7, king c2, bishop a3, and Magnus plays king d3. I go rook h5, rook g6, rook h1, Magnus plays king e2, I go rook a1, and now he plays the move rook c4, intending to double stack on the 6th rank and win the pawn on a6. Here I go rook e7, king f3, bishop b2, and now after the move knight c5, I simply resign because I'm going to lose my last pawn on the board here on a6. I'm going to be down 4 pawns and losing material if not getting checkmated in short order, and I'm also way down on the clock, so there's really not a whole lot to play for. So I lose this first game, a very disappointing game. At some point in the middle, I kind of realized that I was drifting towards something that I had played against Bortnick before, but I was unable to sort of help myself. Don't really get into this game, I just lose, and unfortunately it would not get much better in this match. I would have a brief glimmer of hope in the second game to potentially win. There was one moment when I was much better, but overall very limited chance. And then the third game, I would blunder in the opening very early, get a very bad position. I had some chances later to maybe save the game due to a blunder from Magnus, but it was not meant to be, and because of that I ended up losing this match in the finals to Magnus by a score of 2.5 to half. So it's definitely not what I was hoping for. The match score itself doesn't really annoy me that much. I'm much more disappointed in the fact that I did not feel like I played anywhere near the level that I was capable of playing of. I think that in large part, a big thing was the fact that the energy and the stress and the pressure of the match against Alireza played a huge role. Keep in mind, you guys, that unlike a lot of the regular Chess Champions Tour events, there are those of us who are representing orgs, but on top of that, remember that getting a qualification to the grand final means you have a shot at playing for the grand prize of $325,000, and that is a lot of money. And I think really I just didn't have it in the final match. But that being said, I'm still in the tournament. Tomorrow I will be playing someone in the match for 2nd and 3rd place. If I win that match, I will rematch against Magnus in a final match again. If I lose, I will finish in 3rd place. But I think for right now, I've all but guaranteed that regardless of the result in the 2nd Chess Champions Tour event, I should make the finals because of how I've done. So I'm happy from that standpoint. Wish I could have played a little bit better in this final, maybe made it more challenging. It wasn't meant to be, but that's how it goes. And also I point out that I very easily could have lost this match to Alireza as well, so I can't be too disappointed. So on that note, I hope you guys have enjoyed this recap from the semifinals and the finals and the winners bracket of the Chessable Masters, which is part of the Chess Champions Tour, which is a qualifier to the Esports World Cup being held in Saudi Arabia. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure that you smash that subscribe button below, and we'll be back with a recap tomorrow, whomever I play against in the finals of the losers bracket, and potentially a match against Magnus as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you very soon. Have a good one. Bye.